keep a secret, I have one cool grandma. Okay, somebody probably thinks that their grandma is pretty cool. But whenever you look up the word cool in the dictionary, you'll see my grandma's picture. At least in my dictionary. Her name is Marie, but I've always called her Bubbles. Don't ask me why. I started when I was little and it just stuck. But then she started calling herself Bubbles. And then everybody started calling her Bubbles. Hi, my name is Andrew Chaplin from Local Christian Academy in Chickamauga, Georgia. And today I will be performing Bubbles by Ken Bradbury. How do I start? Okay, let's just say your grandma isn't supposed to be able to beat you in playing video games. Your very own grandma isn't supposed to be a better free throw shooter than you. The typical grandma doesn't just sit there, secretly playing tag with you during church. Bubbles does. She does all this and more. But my favorite memory of Bubbles has nothing to do with video games or free throws. No, my favorite memory is of something much simpler. And I guess it doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but to me. But they were some of the best times in my life. I'd go visit Bubbles during the summertime. And our most favorite memory was on Saturday afternoons. Bubbles would take 2 bottles of orange pop, stick them in a plastic sack. She'd take 2 fresh oatmeal cookies and wrap them up in wax paper. And she would take off, walking. Just walking. Grandpa had a few cows, and we'd open the back gate and walk across the cow pasture to a creek that ran behind the house. Bubbles would sit on the edge and listen to the birds, while I'd become pirate captain, attacking the entire British Navy. A fallen maple stick would become my sword, and I'd drive the bad guys back into the creek, while Bubbles shouted, "Ahoy! Avast! Tally-ho! Go get 'em, Captain!" And a bunch of other words that probably had nothing to do with pirates. Of course, I'd win every time, and Bubbles would shout, "You did it, Captain! You drove those dastardly villains back into the sea! Yo-ho-ho! And a bottle of orange pop!" And I'd fall into her lap laughing. That's when she broke out the oatmeal cookies. She'd be in the middle of a cookie when she'd stop and say, "You hear that?" I'd say, "What?" "A meadowlark." And then, "Now that's a blue jay. He's angry, listen to him. I bet he wants our cookies." And after a few more hours of skipping rocks across the creek, she showed me how. And identifying just a few more birds, she knew them all. And just laying across the swamp grass as the clouds performed a show for just her and me. And then we grabbed the plastic sack and head back across the cow pasture, laughing. I loved those days, full of magic and wonder and love. But then something tragic happened. I got busy. School, sports, friends. More and more of my weekends were spent with things I really had to do. Bubbles would call and say, "How about a walk to the creek this weekend, Captain?" By then, it sort of embarrassed me when she called me Captain. It sounded like kid stuff. I'd say, "Maybe next weekend, Bubbles. I'm really tied up this week." She'd pause a moment and say, "That's fine. You're a busy boy. Maybe next weekend." I wasn't old enough or smart enough to catch the sadness in her voice. I see her every week now, or almost every week. Mom and I go visit her. Room 212, end of the hall. You have to poke in a certain code to get into her ward. Some weeks she knew me. On her really good days, she'd smile. On her really bad days, she just sort of stares. We talk. Bubbles just nods. We hug her before leaving, and sometimes she'd wonder why two total strangers are hugging her. Then we leave. Mom would try to put a good front on the way back to the car. She says things like, "She seemed healthy today, didn't she?" "Yes, Mom." "She recognized us today, don't you think?" "Yes, Mom." We did a pretty good job of lying to each other on the way back, saying we saw things that really weren't there, claiming to see things in Bubbles' eyes that were just, well, hopes. Sometimes lying in my bed before I go to sleep. Sometimes I relive those days with Bubbles at a creek. I relive every moment I can remember. It's like I want to remember for the both of us. Each tree, each slippery rock. I try to recall the sounds of each bird as Bubbles would look into the trees, claiming to hear a bird that had been extinct for hundreds of years. But I made a special appearance right there. Pirate just Bubbles me. Sometimes we let the most precious things in our lives slip away. Just slip away. I would give anything, absolutely anything, to open that old gate again, to wave at the cows while walking across the cow pasture, enter the line of trees bordering the creek, to slip off my shoes and jump in after the British Navy, after Bubbles, as my best friend sat on the edge and shouted, "Ahoy!" Avast! Tally-ho! Go get him, Captain. You go get him. Yo-ho-ho. In a bottle of orange pop.